Hello everyone and welcome back to All About Steph 1 with me, Steph, and today I want to talk about B teams. If you are unsure as to what a B team is, it is basically a worse version of a top team where your rookies will go or where drivers will stay if they are not good enough to make it to your top team. It's not unusual to see B teams in Formula 1 nowadays. They are extremely common, and our most prominent ones are probably Alfa Tauri, which is the B team of Red Bull, and Alfa Romeo / Haas, which are the B teams for Ferrari. It's very common for rookies to go there so that they are able to gain a bit of experience and knowledge of Formula 1 before they step up to the top team. Lewis Hamilton jumping straight into Formula 1 with a top team in McLaren is unheard of nowadays. It just simply wouldn't happen, and Formula 1 is not built like that anymore. So it's clear that B teams have a real importance in Formula 1 and in the development of drivers' careers, but are they going extinct? So to begin with, let's talk about Alfa Tauri, which is the B team of Red Bull. In the 2020 season, they did decide that they no longer wanted to be considered a B team, but rather a sister team. Regardless of how you spin it, Alfa Tauri is the team where the rookies go to gain their experience, but it is also the team where drivers are demoted to when they cannot perform at the top team in Red Bull. Thinking back to the 2020 season, Red Bull won 2 races, which were both won by Max Verstappen, the 70th anniversary Grand Prix and Abu Dhabi. And there was one race that was won by an Alfa Tauri, and that was at Monza, where Pierre Gasly took his maiden victory. When we look at Alfa Tauri and them taking a win in 2020, it seems very clear as to why they are shifting from being a B team to a sister team. We also saw in several cases, in several races last year, that the Alfa Tauri cars were able to challenge that second Red Bull car in Alex Albon. Maybe this strong lineup of Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly is what Alfa Tauri needs to continue bridging that gap to the top team and really cement itself not as a B team but as a sister team and a team in its own right. We are still worlds away from Alfa Tauri being able to properly challenge Red Bull at the front of the grid, but it's nice to see them making these strides now and trying to get out of this B team mentality. Alfa Tauri also opted not to use old Red Bull parts on their new spec car, which to me suggests that they really want to break free of this idea that they are Red Bull's backup. So Alfa Tauri is definitely leaning more towards being a competitor of Red Bull rather than just where the Red Bull rejects go. But let's look at Ferrari and Ferrari's B teams. In 2020, on several occasions, the Alfa Romeo was able to pass Ferrari on pure pace. Now, I am fully aware that this is because the Ferrari was not a great car, but the Alfa Romeo also wasn't great either. Alfa Romeo or Sauber was traditionally where the Ferrari juniors would go, and Alfa Romeo currently has a lineup which includes Kimi Raikkonen and Antonio Giovinazzi being a Ferrari junior. I think Ferrari use their B teams quite wisely, and they now have seats available at both Alfa Romeo and Haas for 2 of their junior drivers to go. This allows those juniors to gain the experience necessary, and because they are fairly similar in terms of the car's capabilities, they're able to kind of put those 2 drivers head to head and see how well they're doing, and therefore see which one would be best suited to be promoted to the top team. For me, Ferrari's B teams are going to remain Ferrari's B teams. It is such a powerful team in Formula 1 that it doesn't want any team potentially upstaging it, let alone a team which has its engines. So I think Ferrari are going to work extremely hard to ensure that they are going to be back at the front of the grid as soon as possible, because I'm sure they do not want to be fighting with their B teams in 15th place. Mercedes, as we know, has relationships with Racing Point / Aston Martin and Williams. I think Aston Martin is likely to try and go in its own direction and distance itself from Mercedes, or potentially taking on any Mercedes juniors. They did take on Esteban Ocon, but we know how that worked out because he was dropped at the end of 2018. Williams is where George Russell, the Mercedes junior, ended up, and so there is definitely an opportunity for the future Mercedes juniors, including Frederick Vesti, to end up in that Williams seat while they wait for their talent to nurture enough to go to the top team. Mercedes picking up Bottas from Williams in 2017 I think is also very indicative of the relationship they have, and we could potentially have another case of drivers swapping around, with Bottas maybe moving back to Williams and George Russell moving up to the Mercedes. It's definitely possible, and because they have these close ties, I wouldn't rule it out. But Mercedes is probably the top team with the least amount of ties to a B team. So I want to talk about Renault, and I would say that Renault is the only team on the grid which doesn't really have a B team, but it's kind of not a top team either. In the future, Renault is going to have some real struggles because it only has 2 places on the Formula 1 grid. I should say Alpine. Alpine has a great stash of junior drivers, but because there are so little spaces on the grid in that Alpine team, some of those drivers are inevitably going to miss out on a Formula 1 seat. I also worry a little bit for Alpine because if they do become a top team, which they are striving to become in the next few years, it will be all the more difficult for them to promote those juniors into such a high-pressured environment, and so I think more of those juniors will therefore fall through the cracks. So maybe a B team is important, especially if you're going to be a top team, because there is so much on the line in terms of points and Constructors' Championship money that you wouldn't want a chance by having a rookie in your team. I want to talk for a second about the budget cap and how that is actually going to impact the B teams and sister teams on the grid. So the B teams are likely going to finish behind the A teams in the Constructors' Championship, which means they will then have more time to test in the wind tunnel. This could therefore assist them in creating a better package for the next championship season and give them an opportunity to challenge their A teams. If that actually plays out, then they will be less likely to be considered B teams and more likely to be considered sister teams because they aren't as low down in the Constructors' Championship order as a B team would be expected to be. And if a B team is consistently able to compete with its A team, then I don't think we can consider them a B team whatsoever. And I think they genuinely have to either be considered a sister team or an independent entity. I do think the budget cap could have a massive impact on B teams and whether they survive in Formula 1 or whether they disappear. However, B teams I don't think are going anywhere for the next few years at the very, very least. Formula 1 is striving to make the field much more competitive. That's why the budget cap is coming in, and that's why we are changing the amount of time that each team gets to spend in the wind tunnels. But these factors won't eradicate B teams, and they will still exist in one form or the other. Personally, I think that we're going to be moving towards sister teams rather than B teams, and I think that Red Bull and Alfa Tauri are kind of leading the charge in this change. At this point, I would like to say that I completely understand why B teams exist, and I think they are a great business idea, especially from the perspective of a top team in a sport as expensive and competitive as Formula 1. Are you a fan of B teams? Let me know in the comments down below. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching. Do not forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe down below if you have not already. We're on the road to 100? We're on the road to 1,000 subs. So any help will be much appreciated. Thank you guys so much again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.